right, welcome to Seneca Studios, everyone. My name is Clifton Crawford, and it is a very hot day in Texas. We are thrilled to present our Open Studios Night, the second Friday of every month. We feature an artist, we get the team together, and we show off what we're so passionate about. I want to recognize our sponsors. I want to thank the City of Fort Worth, Arts Fort Worth, the Texas Commission on the Arts, the J.E.S. Edwards Foundation, the R4 Foundation. There's a bunch of incredible people in this community that support Seneca Studios. We are a nonprofit, and we are all about education and community. So we have Aya Oki in the studios today. She has come to us from California. She's traveling and teaching and making art all over the country, and we're so thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you a few questions. First, to give us just a little background on you and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Aya Oki. I'm originally from Japan. Currently, I'm living in San Bernardino, California. Now I'm in Texas, Fort Worth in Texas. Yeah, that's my background.
Where did you go to school?
About the school? Okay.
Yeah, where did you go to school?
So I graduated grad school in Japan in 2008, and then I was so interested in studying abroad. So but I had to study English first. So I went to California State, San Bernardino to study English first in 2009, and then next year I studied English for a year, and then next year I was able to get into the school as a grad student, and I met Catherine Gray that time. And then I was also interested in going to RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. And I got the scholarship for going to school, so I transferred to RIT, and I went there for 2 years and then graduated. I got a master's degree in 2014. And then I went back to California. I've been in California since then, and traveling around and teaching. I got more teaching experience maybe last 5-6 years, and I love teaching, but also I love traveling and then work with friends and old friends and new friends, and work with all the people.
Yeah, well, Seneca Studios is all about community, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the organization stands for. It's bringing together silica and sodium and calcium and filling it with the passion and energy to melt it, to make beautiful things. And so that is why this place exists. So if you're interested in learning about glass or engaging in this material in any way, we have a great gallery. We feature artwork here. We've got over 50 artists from around the world. We offer all kinds of classes and workshops. So check us out online. If you'd like to come by, we are doing all kinds of things. Tomorrow is our ice cream social. Every July we have an ice cream social to cool down, right? It's 107 today, actually, right now. And so tomorrow we will be emptying the furnace and doing a lot of sand casting. We will be, serving ice cream to help everyone to stay cool. So if you're in the area tomorrow, come by for our annual ice cream social and check out the gallery. I don't know if the piece will be here tomorrow, but Aya was last here. You've been here before, right?
Yes.
As you said, you've traveled and you've blown glass and made friends and built community. And when you were here in 2017, 5 years ago now, you were making some work that was very interesting. And we have all been following you, and your work is evolving. And so we have an incredible piece of her recent work, and then we have 2 pieces that she made when she was here with us in 2017. So Aya, tell us a little bit about this work, because it's really getting some attention, and it's stunning, and it's very exciting. So give us a little insight into what this is.
Yeah. So when I came here in 2017, I made those 2 bubble piece in clear, and then this one is a bubbles that's sucked in inside of the bottle, and then this one is instead of sucked in, I blow up the bubble. And I just really love the technique of it. Once I heat the glass and then put additional fresh glass on it and then blow up and then doing the same process again and again. And I just love looking at this glass pushing each other and kind of interact each other. And that's, I think a glass is kind of very lifelike quality, has a lifelike qualities, but also very sensual material to me. So that's what I want to share with my audience. And I've been developing this bubble work. It was only clear, but after I made it only clear, I start using a color and one color. And then I really liked how it faded. So going inside, it's more like dense. But as I blow the bubbles, the tip of the bubble gets more, like color gets more faded. And I can see kind of transition of the bubble. But after that, I started using a cane, which is the line that you can see in all the bubbles. So all the white bubbles, the white lines, those are called cane. And I thought cane really fit to make what I want to express. So I started using a cane, making a crisscross pattern, and I think crisscross pattern is looks more puffier to me as I blow bubbles. Then after that, I started using multiple colors. So now this one has 4 kinds of colors and with patterns. So this is my recent work. So it's kind of like taking a long time to develop, and also kind of define. Yeah, so this is where I am now, and I'm still keep developing it with different form. Yeah.
And so we're going to make tonight.
Yeah.
We're about to begin, and we're going to make a piece similar to this. This is very large, right?
This
That's
is
a very
really
heavy and a very
big.
large piece. And
Yeah.
in the heat, we have to be safe and be careful. And so we're going to scale down a little bit and less bubbles. But the piece we're about to demonstrate, or Aya is going to lead the team through, is in this body of work as she continues to refine it. So it's interesting to see the work from 5 years ago and how it's stepping into the new with the pattern and the color. It's beautiful. So we're thrilled. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
So excited.
So are we.
Yeah.
So everybody out there will be manning the chat box throughout the demonstration. So if you have questions for Aya, you can put them into the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. Or just come on up. If you're in Fort Worth, come up. We'll be blowing for the next 2.5 hours. But if you can't make it tomorrow or today, come tomorrow for our ice cream social. I want to recognize everybody on the team. Of course, Aya Oki is our feature. Again, I'm Clifton Crawford. Jean Fernandez is behind the camera. In the studio, you'll see Kevin McGeehee and Tatara Siegel, and Heidi Childers is producing the behind the scenes. We've got Nolan and Blake are also here to help out. So I want to recognize this is all about community. Also, our beauty behind the counter, Imran, is here. And so if you have any questions, pick up the phone and give him a call. He loves to talk about glass too. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, I want to recognize all those out there that support us. We are a nonprofit. We rely on people's support. So if you like what you see, if you want to help us to continue to bring great people into town and to showcase glass art at its highest level, a little donation, it always helps. We really would appreciate it. Or come take a class, or come buy something out of the gallery. That also helps to support the artists. So thank you guys again all for tuning in, and let's get in there and sweat a little bit and make something great.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
I'll keep chatting a little bit. Jean's on the mic, and Aya is gonna get things started, but I'll talk a little bit about the process as she begins.
Oh yeah. That's right.
So again, everybody, I want to just recognize the support. You know, Seneca is all about bringing people together and doing things as a community. And I can't thank the Arts Council, which is the Arts Fort Worth now, and the Texas Commission on the Arts for their continued support of our programming. We do programming we like things in threes. You know, silica, sodium, and calcium is the original recipe for this incredible material that we're so passionate about. We do programming in arts and culture, we do programming in education, and we do programming in health and wellness. In arts and culture, we invite anybody and everybody to come experiment and play and experience the material in glass blowing, flame working, and kiln forming. Again, the three hot disciplines. So there's all kinds of stuff on our website that you can learn about, and through those the support and the foundation support and the state and city support that we receive, we do programming with the community. We have some great things with great partners like the Fort Worth ISD and One Safe Place. We've done things with veterans. We do stuff with Project Success and some really great people, the Beads of Courage group. So we do all kinds of stuff around here. And I want to thank everybody out there who's supported us. Yeah. So we're in the hot shop. We're in the hottest time of the year. We're a little foolish. The furnace is the heart of the facility, and it's been on for about 5 years, right? It runs at 2100 degrees, and this furnace has done an incredible job of supporting all of the programming that we do. And like I said earlier, our Ice Cream Social is a fundraiser. The Ice Cream Social is designed to help us to make it through the hottest time of the year and to service and to upgrade some of the equipment. And so the biggest item on this summer's to-do list is to rebuild the furnace. So after tomorrow, this will be the last piece what we blow out of this furnace, and then tomorrow we will ladle glass out of the furnace. We'll pour it into the sandbox. We'll make impressions in the sand and duplicate little hands and feet and all kinds of things tomorrow during the Ice Cream Social. And the proceeds from that event and all the donations we receive will go to build us a new furnace. The furnace has a crucible in it that holds the molten material, and that crucible doesn't last forever. We've stretched it to a 5th year, and it's done a great job, but we will be rebuilding this furnace from the ground up. We'll be upgrading it to make it more sustainable, more energy efficient, including a new crucible, a new investment, a new recuperator to save some of that heat and to recycle it back into the combustion. So the furnace is a big part of what we do, as you can imagine, and this summer we will be rebuilding it. Yeah, so it's hot, and we are humans, and we are hydrated, and we are tough. But the technology that we carry around is not so good in the heat. So throughout this broadcast, we may cut in and out. Certainly the phone that Jean has in her hand is going to overheat, and we'll swap it out with a cool one. We have a couple other camera angles, but ultimately this live feed may be abruptly ended if the technology decides to do so. That's right. Oh, yes. So the Ice Cream Social has several really interesting elements to it, one of which is smashing something, right? Every year we make it's the Ice Cream Social, and in the beginning we made an ice cream cone. We made a big ice cream cone, and in the top there was a hole, and we would put our dollars in it all year long. And people who wanted to donate any amount could add to the ice cream bank. And then the following Ice Cream Social, we made a double scoop. And then we needed to get the money out of the original scoop, so we smash it. And so each year for the last 11 years, we've made an ice cream themed sculptural piece that becomes a bit of a piggy bank. And so last year, we made a popsicle. It was the first deviation from actual ice cream, and we made a popsicle. It's in the gallery, and I think Jean will go and show it to you guys in a minute. And it has been donated in, and people have added their contributions over the year. And tomorrow we're going to smash it. All right, so if you are interested in participating in the raffle, to do so, you can buy tickets. You can go to our website, and you can get a ticket to participate. We are going to draw at 7 o'clock, right? So if you're interested in coming tomorrow and smashing the popsicle, then get online now and order and get a ticket, right? We've had a bunch of people already sign up, so we will be drawing for that raffle at 7 o'clock. Is it 8?
All right, you guys, so I'm going to take over for a little bit while Clifton's checking on our oxygen levels. Aya's gathering out of our furnace, which is kept at about 2100 degrees, pretty much year round. So tomorrow during the ice cream social, we'll be turning it up a little bit to sandcast. You can see that the glass is pretty nice and glowing orange when it comes out of the furnace. And the glass acts kind of like taffy. So the hotter it is, the more honey-like it becomes. Now Aya's making a color. She's already been working in the hot shop, prepping for this demo. So she's got to make a collar to pick up the prep work that she did earlier. So you guys, Clifton warned a little bit about the technology overheating. The best solution to that is to come hang out with us in person. It's not too bad out here, but the technology does tend to overheat because it can't keep itself hydrated like we can. Aya was working for about 3 hours earlier today, prepping for this demo. I've got the bleachers set up. If you guys would like to come check us out, feel free to come hang out with us in person. We're hoping that we'll be able to live stream for at least a couple hours more if our technology hangs out. But the best way to get the uninterrupted view is to come check out this demo in person. So don't forget, we do this every second Friday of the month.
Go get him, Tiger.
You can see that Aya prepped a collar. She's picked up this cup that's got a bunch of lines on it. So if you've been hanging out since the start of the broadcast, you saw the piece that she had made earlier. We're going to do something kind of similar to that. cup with a bunch of color on it, and then a bunch of cane lines. She's gonna blow this form, and then once she's happy with the form, she's gonna start adding bubbles to it.
So I did a little prep work earlier. She brought some canes with her, so there's a lot to kind of wrap your head around here in this piece. Oftentimes we'll make something that has quite a bit of preparation before we begin, and so this piece is composed of a whole bunch of canes. And so let's discuss canes for a moment. We can gather glass from the furnace, and we can color it in many ways. So let's take that out of the equation for a moment. After we have a mass of glass, we can get it very evenly heated, and we can draw it out, and we can connect two pipes to it, and we can pull, we can draw it into a very long cane. So on the Marver, there is a whole bunch of canes that Aya brought with her. And so she makes these canes with some overlays of different colors. So there's a little white stripe in the middle that's encased in some blue or orange, and then clear on top of all of that. So to make her these complex, or these are pretty straightforward canes really, but to make these canes, we layer the colors, and then we get it all hot and we pull so that we create a very long, even cane of glass. Then you break that long cane up into small little pieces, and then you can heat those up and apply them to the surface of the bubble. So what Aya's done here is to wrap a sheet of these canes around a clear bubble, and then she took that and twisted it. Let's just say she twisted it clockwise. So she twisted those canes so that the bubble had this swirled pattern. She made a cup out of that bubble, and she put that cup away in an oven to kind of sit and to stay nice and hot at about 1,000 degrees. Then she made another one. She made another bubble, rolled the canes around it, and twisted that bubble counterclockwise. And she then took that bubble and put it inside the cup that she had originally made. So there's two patterns here, one twisting clockwise, one twisting counterclockwise. And in our industry, this is an Italian technique they call Reticello. So she's twisted these canes, layered them to create a crisscross pattern. So if you think back to the work that she showed us in the gallery, you can see that crisscross as things blow and diffuse and stretch. So Aya has the beginning of this piece in a very dense pattern of canes that are twisted to create this Reticello. So she's going to get that good and warm and make sure it's nice and smooth and even. She's going to go into the furnace, and she's going to put a new layer of glass on top of this. She calls it a skinny gather. She's going to gather from the furnace and let some of it drip off, and then she'll probably pull some more of that off so that she has a thin veil of clear on top of everything that she currently has on the end of the pipe. So like we said earlier, this is a team approach, especially in these kinds of temperatures. So Tatara Siegel is on the pipe now, and they will communicate and hand it back and forth, getting it hot where she needs it, helping to shape. We use lots of different tools at the bench, right? You can see the pipe is rolling on these two rails that make up the glass blowing bench. And next to that bench is a little table, a little tool table. On that table, she has metal tools. She has some Italian tools from Murano, from the Carladona family that's been making glass tools for a very long time. She has some tools that were made in Japan as well, the Maruko family that makes tools in Japan. She has a pad sitting there. That's a funny little pad that's on the bench. You'll see her use it quite a bit. That pad is made of newspaper. So sometimes we will shape it and cool it with wood. We have some wooden paddles that we use to shield one another from the radiant heat, but we can also press that paddle on the glass, and then we use newspaper and we fold it up so that there's 120 or so sheets of paper. We get that really wet so that we can grab the glass, and we can use that as a flexible piece of wood at that point. So to shape it and to cool it. So much of what we do is about balance and an understanding of the material and the temperature. When this material is at certain temperatures, it moves in certain ways, and so we try our best to understand the temperature, keep things balanced, and then influence it with these different tools. Our breath, when we are ready to blow through the pipe to make a bubble larger, and that pressure and those influences will move the glass where it's nice and hot. So the tool in her hand now is called the Jax, and she's going to make this a little bit smaller. She doesn't want to make this humongous, so she's going to bring that down and make this a little bit smaller so that it doesn't get as big as she continues to add glass and blow these additional bubbles on the surface of this pattern bubble. So that's where we're headed, right? She's going to make this a little smaller. She's going to gather some clear glass over this entire thing, and then she will have the team bring her some additional bits of glass from the furnace, and she will heat them and control them in such a way, and then blow so that it moves in the way she wants it to move. That little ball that she's going to break free is just quite beautiful in itself. So we will save that and put it into the oven to cool off, and perhaps she'll take it with her to use in a different piece in some way later on. When you create these incredible patterns and you spend all this time to make these things so beautiful, it's best not to just throw them away. We preheated it.
So you guys, you can see that Aya's got this tube from her mouth to the end of the blowpipe. That's going to allow her to inflate as she's working on glass. So she's slowly adding air to get to the final size as she's working on this piece. Now I'm trying not to get too close to the glass so that the camera doesn't overheat, but hopefully you guys can see there's a really cool pattern with a bunch of different colors on it. Aya, what colors do you have in there? Aya, what colors do you have in there?
Dark purple, topaz,
Turquoise, dark purple, topaz, and one more?
amethyst.
Oh, amethyst. Okay, so it's going to be very colorful once this is done. So at this point, you can't really see any of those colors because it's quite glowing orange from the heat. But this piece is going to be quite colorful once it's done. For those of you who didn't catch us at the beginning of this video, Aya did say as she blows these pieces out, the color diffuses a little bit. But because she's got this white linear cane on the inside, we're going to still be able to see the white lines. So a topaz is kind of an ambery color. The amethyst is a really deep purple. You guys all know what turquoise looks like. It's going to be a really beautiful color combo for this piece. So it's really kind of amazing because up until this point, Aya's just been working on the color and the pattern. She hasn't really started working on the form yet. So you can see how much work just goes into the color and the pattern of the piece. So the next time you come and see one of Aya's pieces, you'll have a newfound appreciation for it. Tatara's nodding her head. By the way, if you guys haven't done a class with us yet, definitely come check us out. We're going to be shutting this down for the summer, so our glass blowing classes won't be available over the summer, but we've got flame working classes and kiln forming classes throughout the summer. So if you haven't checked out our website, please do go do that. There's so many ways to work with glass that are really, really fantastic, and we like to give you guys options for the summer. So if you want to come hang out with us in the AC and still work with glass, don't forget, we exist. Now tomorrow's a pretty big day for us. We've got that ice cream social. If you're not doing anything, you want to come by, buy some ice cream, hang out with us. We are raising funds for rebuilding our furnace this summer. And we're gonna have plenty of ice cream. To keep you guys cool. We're also going to be doing a bunch of sand castings. So Heidi's got a couple of links in the chat already for us. You can check those out on our website. The ice cream social is what you're looking for. It's got a bunch of information about how you can participate with us tomorrow. And so we'll be shutting the furnace down for until about the end of August, and then we'll be back up and running. So make sure to come hang out with us tomorrow. You'll get to see the new ice cream that we're going to reveal tomorrow after we smash the old one. So every year we make a new ice cream / popsicle for that event. And that's the event in which we basically show the public what we've created. And that's our donation jar for the year. So it's quite an awesome event. Bunch of kids hanging out, bunch of adults hanging out, people eating ice cream, making sand castings. We also ladle out the furnace at the very end. And that's a really fun thing to see if you've never seen that before. Sorry, you guys. Because it's so warm in the studio, the cameras are overheating a little bit. So we're going to cut in and out a little bit, but we'll try to keep you guys clued in as to what's going on in the studio. So Aya's got done with the initial shaping. She said the next step is to put a thin skin of clear over this entire bubble. So she's going to go back into our furnace that sits at about 2100 degrees. She's going to gather a thin skin of liquid glass over that color. So Aya wants the skin to be kind of nice and thin, so you can see her pulling a lot of that clear glass back off of the pipe. And that'll stop all that clear glass from being too thick of a layer on this bubble. Nicely done. All right. She's got a little excess clear on the tip of the bubble, which you can see her cutting off right now. So she's got the jacks in her hand. She's making a little constriction, then going in with those diamond shears to take that off. So glassblowing is very much a team sport. You can see the team working really well in this instance. Tatara is helping Aya out and taking some of the heats so Aya doesn't get too tired or exhausted from the heat. This also allows Aya to take a minute to think about what she's making when the glass comes back to her. So I don't know if you guys can see, but Aya's giving the piece a little bit of air. That tube that's wrapped around her neck is a blowhose, and you can see that it's attached to the end of the blow pipe. That's allowing her to blow as she's shaping the glass. So Clifton is discussing with Aya what the plan is for the next part of the process, which is taking a bunch of bits on this bubble. So Aya's going to shape this up, make sure that the bubble is thinner. She's going to add some air to it, retain the shape. Are you thinking you're going to keep the shape the same, like around like this, before adding the bits? A teardrop. So Aya's plan is to make it somewhat of a teardrop shape, yeah?
Yeah, teardrop shape, and eventually it's gonna be close to the sphere.
Okay, got it. So a teardrop shape to start, but eventually it's going to be more of a sphere shape. Guys, don't forget that we are monitoring the chat. If y'all have any questions about this process, you have any questions you want us to ask Aya, feel free to pop them in the chat. You can see a bunch of tools on that bench over there next to Aya, but the tool she's using in her hand right now is a newspaper. Just a few layers of folded up newspaper plus some water make for a really nice tool that you can put your hand super close to the glass with. The nice thing about this tool is the glass kind of starts to conform to the shape of your hand, so depending on what shape your hand is, you can kind of guide the glass as to what shape you want it to be. So Aya's got a little bit more shaping to do on this before we start to add the bits. So as Aya is blowing into the form, she's also shaping it with a newspaper. So that's letting her kind of control what's happening with the glass. You can see that pattern a little bit better now. As she's blowing this form a little bit bigger, the pattern's sort of stretching out, becoming a little bit more visually easy to see. Oh, sorry. So Aya's going for somewhat of a teardrop shape. You can see the glass is kind of still hot, just by that orange glow. To Tara and Aya, between the two of them, they're trying to keep the glass really nice and hot. Cold glass doesn't move anywhere. So we've got to keep the glass up by reheating it in our reheating chamber every time we want to shape it further. Every time Aya touches a tool, so that newspaper touches it or a tool touches it, the glass is cooling down. It's stopping. It's not moving quite as fast. So it's a delicate balance between keeping the glass hot, blowing, shaping. It's kind of a dance. So you guys, if you're local, don't forget we're live streaming, hopefully until 9 tonight, if the weather lets us. If you're local, you can come out and watch us in person. And if you're not local, feel free to engage with us online. You can type in questions. We can pass them to Aya if you're curious about anything you're seeing tonight. you can see that Clifton's shielding Aya's arm, just to give her a little bit of extra protection from the heat. As she's working larger, the heat is getting a little more intense as well, so she's got a sleeve on that's gonna give her some protection. But those paddles are key for helping out with a little bit of heat. Yeah, it looks so great. So you guys can hopefully see some of that crisscross pattern that Clifton was telling us about earlier. A little Reticello pattern. So I think the next is going to be to add bubbles. Aya is telling Clifton how much glass she's going to need. And Aya's kind of giving everyone a heads up on what her plan is, just so the whole team's kind of aware of what's going on. So you guys can see it takes a team to make something like this happen. And the cool thing is this team hasn't really worked together very much before. Whenever we have a visiting artist kind of come in, they haven't really worked very much with our team. So it's all about kind of learning each other, being really good, communicating. Communication's super important in general, especially for glass makers. Now, Aya's told Clifton how much glass she kind of wants. And Clifton's gathered a little bit of liquid glass on the end of a punty. Clifton's kind of checking with Aya about the size. Oh, we're getting blown bits. So this is actually some glass on the end of a blowpipe. No? Oh, got it. Never mind. We are gathering solid blobs of glass. So Aya's next step is torching the spot that she's going to take the bit. You can see her go in with a hot torch. She's heating the moil where the glass is connected to the blowpipe. And then she's giving it a little heat where she's about to take that bit. So Clifton's got a little bit of glass here. He's double checking the size with Aya. And then Aya's torching the spot where she's gonna take that bit. got this chunk of glass on the end there. And she's giving it some air pressure. You can see that bubble kind of expanding into the glass, hopefully. So the cool thing about this process is that Aya's gotten this really nice tight pattern on the inside, and then she's slowly distorting it as she's blowing these bubbles. So hopefully you guys could see that on the camera, that little bubble where that hot glass was, the pattern kind of expanding into that space. Aya's kind of taking care to torch the moil, which is the part of the glass that is connected to the metal. If that area gets too cold, then we could have issues with the pipe, the piece cracking off the pipe.
Somebody who knows Aya with AARC.
What do we know?
She's gonna poke a hole in it, and we're gonna honey up to it, and then she's gonna make the rest of it.
Alrighty. Welcome, guys. Hope you're sweating along with us. We've got our initial bubble, or initial bit, added to our blank. Everything is nice and connected at this point. Aya's going to use a tungsten pick and superheat that with our oxygen propane torch, and then is actually going to pierce through that bubble. So this will actually have an opening, because eventually we're going to actually add another pipe to the end of that clear bubble where she's about to pierce through. And then we'll work the rest of the piece off of the new pipe. So in a traditional sense, we already have the bottom now completed, and then we'll start working on the top. However, this is obviously not a very traditional piece, so bottom is fairly relative in the grand scheme of things. To make sure that this stays nice and hollow and open, Clifton is actually creating what we call a blow punty. So we're creating a hollow on the end of a blow pipe that will then be attached to the bottom of the piece, but will still give Aya the opportunity to add air as we continue to go forward. While he's in there, Cliff is gonna, you're gonna blow it or just pop it? So by blowing into the furnace at that point, Cliff can actually force the air to push through the mass of glass that's at the end of the pipe, creating an opening that will then eventually be attached to the bottom of the piece. Whee! See, we got that hole poked through the bottom of that bubble. The punty that Cliff is working on will be attached to that. So Cliff's working on his blow punty. It's got a special growth there. I'm going to add a little bit of heat and work that out. So while he's creating that, I and Tatara have to keep that piece really nice and warm so it doesn't get too cold and then break. So Cliff's going to do a little bit of finessing to the end of that punty that he's creating over there. Aya's going to get a measurement on the edge of that bubble and then can take that over to Cliff so he knows exactly how broad a diameter that needs to be on the end of the pipe. Now we can see what Cliff's been working on over here. Looks like a big suction cup. So at this point, just making sure all of the heat's really nice and equally. We don't want the glass on the head of the pipe that Aya has in her hands to be too cold and potentially break and crack. Cliff's got a little bit more shaping to do on this blow punty. Use those jacks to kind of cool and shape and move the material where he needs it to go. And again, this needs to be hollow so Aya can actually blow through this new pipe as we attach the rest of the bits to the piece. I have some thickness to it so it attaches really nicely, but also will eventually allow the pipe to break off. We don't want it to just completely weld on there. and making sure that lip is really nice and hot so it'll stick really well. It's a little tight in here from time to time. When we're working with 2 5-foot long rods in a confined space with extra material off the end of them, you got to be very aware of where each person is. So, Aya is going to grab that with the jacks, likes the shape, likes the heat, going to attach it, add a little pressure to compress it in, then get Cliff to wiggle that around, make sure tight seal, so eventually when they do add air, it'll actually blow through that little opening she created. So T's going to blow through the back end of the pipe, make sure that it is hollow. Cliff felt the air pressure come out, so we are good to go. We'll cool down that next section with the jacks, add a little bit of water, create our thermal stress. We'll bring it up onto the rail, or just hold it up in the air, give it a little tap on the pipe with those tweezers. The vibration is going to cause a resonance. Resonance finds a weak spot and it falls right off. And now it's about heating that front section up, because eventually that's going to get closed down, so this creates the illusion of a completely enclosed form, even though we know that we've got a little tiny opening towards the tip of it. So now you can see, whoops. So the next step is to get that lip nice and hot. Close it off, and then add more bubbles or bits of glass to create our bubbles to the top. It's so pretty. This will be a fairly long heat as well. The section we're trying to get really nice and hot at this point has been out of the direct line of fire, so to speak, for a good amount of time, so it's relatively cold. Also, it's pretty thick too, so the thicker the material, the longer it's going to take for the heat to soak into the glass to make it malleable, where we can actually do something with it. Periodically though, you will see us take the whole piece, dump it into the fire to make sure we keep a nice equal heat over the entirety of the object. It's called a flash, anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds, sometimes a little bit more, but again, the idea is to keep a nice warmth to all of the glass that's on the end of that pipe. And taking a look at it, you can see it's got a really nice bright glow. Aya's going to come over with those rose crimps, start grabbing and pinching and pulling that material out. You also notice she's wearing a glove because she's in a really close proximity to the heat. Those rose crimps are nice because they grab a big fat section of glass in a short period of time. That helps thin it out, even it out, and then we're going back to condense down that line. So it's a really nice, and eventually close that whole section off. And if you were curious, yes, it's very hot today. We don't know how hot. We don't want to know how hot. So the jacks are a very versatile tool. You can use more than just the blades. In that case, you saw Aya just use that spring to do a little cooling and shaping. and then going back with those blades to condense down that connection point. We'll probably do this one, maybe two more times to make sure it's got a nice tight termination. She wants to make sure that all the canes line up in a really nice even manner. So as the bubbles or the bits of glass are laid on top of them, everything's going to blow out really nicely. You're not going to have an odd termination here or there. Aya's got her blow hose hooked up now, so she can actually add a little bit of air to reinflate as needed, and then go back with those jacks to condense down that neckline. And then come in with the diamond shears, a couple of chomps, and that'll clean that right up. They're dying like a bad habit.
Yeah, you're getting a lot closer to the material than they were. Oh shit, that one's not even ready yet. Huh, I heard that.
So here's the fun drawback about making really big, fun, cool work, is you have to open all the doors, which means we get more physically tired more quickly. So it's totally sealed. The flower's been cut off the end. Aya's adding a little bit of air to round that out. So this will end up having more of an overall round shape to it. So now we start adding bits in a relatively more quick process. I'm actually going to try to keep the camera further away from the heat so we don't overheat as quickly, as awesome as it is to kind of look in and see what's going on. Aya's her own backup for this? So Aya's her backup for herself? So we're actually going to start working in a rotation to keep ourselves a little bit on the fresh side so we don't completely expire from all the extreme heat we're dealing with this afternoon. It's a nice, light, fluffy flame on the glass that's connected to the blowpipe. We call that the moil. Cliff is going to start getting a couple of extra gathers on the end of his blowpipe. The reason we're using a blowpipe as opposed to a punty, difference being blowpipes are hollow, punty rods are solid. The diameter of the blowpipe helps create a more consistent gather for what Aya needs in terms of overall shape and size of the glass. So that's why we're going with blowpipes to bring these solid bits. So Cliff will take that over, do a little bit of shaping and cooling with the blocks. And while that's happening, T's keeping everything nice and warm over on this side. Everybody has a slightly different idea of what small is. So Aya's grabbed the hot torch. She's going to isolate a lot of hot heat in one specific area. Cliff is working on shaping and cooling the bit of glass on the blowpipe. When he gets that under control, he's going to bring it over to Aya. They'll stick it together, start adding a little bit of air to blow this sucker up. Cliff snuck right in there real quick. So Cliff is going to keep that blob on the end of the pipe really nice and hot, so when it does get stuck, bang. Sorry guys, our camera went out a little bit on the gimbal, so I'll just kind of talk us through. We're sticking that onto that hot bit of glass, pressing down, making nice contact. Then we're going to take our diamond shears and shear a cutoff point to it. Then add a little bit of heat on that tip to make sure it gets cooked in really, really nicely. I don't want to walk by her at this point for fear of getting burnt. And then we're just going to build that heat into it. And that'll slowly work itself in. And then Aya will start blowing when she sees the movement that she's looking for. And that glass of the cane that is her blank is slowly going to start pushing in. So you can, we'll do a couple of heats to really, again, get that heat situated where we need it to go so it'll blow out really nice and evenly for us. A lot of conversation, a lot of movement to make something like this work. You've got to know where each person on the team is going to be. One, so you can avoid them, and two, so you know what the plan's going to be in the process. So you can see that that bubble's slowly starting to grow. A little bit more conversation. There goes the bubble, blowing up really nice and big. There we grow. We've got that bubble blown all the way out to the clear. And then it's going to be a bunch of step and repeat, going back and forth, getting it hot, blowing the bubble out, spot heating, dropping another blob of glass on top of it, and then blowing that out. So again, a little conversation about how big, how much, where this one is potentially going to go. Back to the fluffy torch to keep the moil and the connection really nice and warm so we don't have to worry about things getting too cold. I believe at the beginning of the thought process on this piece, I was anticipating adding 11 of these bits in total to the piece to bring it to completion. But that's always dependent on how much glass Cliff is grabbing on each of those gathers that he's bringing over and sticking to it. No, it's okay. I'm getting that that second gather on the end of the blowpipe for Cliff. Letting that kind of strip off in the furnace. Go cool the pipe and then do a little bit of cooling and shaping. So Cliff's gotten a little directive from Aya and Tatara that once this one goes on, now that the heat's actually starting to soak more evenly into all that cane that's in the body, the process will actually speed up a little bit because the heat's staying more saturated in the glass. We don't have to worry about soaking it in as long and still ending up with the same result. Think Laura Donifer's watching? It's like Artisan Heat way back when, except it's worse. Miss you, Laura, if you're out there. So Cliff has all the gathers he needs to block it, cool it, shape it, and then bring it over to Aya when she's ready for it. And this is our last hot shot demo until we bring everything back online in September. Tomorrow is our annual ice cream social. It's our 11th one. It is our opportunity to wind down our glass blowing season. Now that doesn't mean that the rest of the studios do not stay active. They actually do. They are nice and climate controlled as opposed to the glass blowing studio. So you can work in relative comfort. So flame working and kiln forming classes will be offered throughout the rest of the summer. But tomorrow for the ice cream social, we'll give you guys the opportunity, if you haven't already, to sign up to come in and do a sand casting. If you have signed up to do a sand casting, please, please, please bring something to press into the sand. We have a limited number of items and objects, but if you are coming and you've got something you'd like to see kind of immortalized in glass, it's a really awesome way to do it. The more rigid the object is, the better. So that way it makes a really nice defined section in the sand. Because basically think of the sand casting that we're going to do tomorrow for the ice cream social as an open face mold. So we've got that next big old blob of glass on there. Cliff is clearing the pipe. He's blown really aggressively to try and push an air bubble up through it so the head doesn't get clogged. There's nothing more frustrating than grabbing a blowpipe, expecting to be able to blow out of it, and nothing physically happens to it. So Aya is again getting some really nice hot heat on the tip of that new blob. T will take a flash on it. Close you in or leave it open? Okay. So now we've gotten to the point where doors have to be opened. What does that mean? More direct heat falling into the middle of this room, keeping everybody even more warm. So back to the ice cream social. If you are coming tomorrow, you've signed up for a sand casting slot. Make sure you're bringing something you can push into the sand. Like I said earlier, things that are relatively solid and rigid. Hand tools always work well. Feet and hands work really nicely. Lego figures. Got a favorite Matchbox car you want to smush into the sand? That's always awesome. Lots of different opportunities, but we certainly encourage you guys to bring something to push into the sand. And we'll get that started around 11 o'clock tomorrow. We will be drawing our Break the Popsicle winner here in just a few moments. About 8 o'clock we'll do our drawing. Whoever wins that has the opportunity to come in tomorrow. We need you here by 10:45 so we can get you prepped up and ready to take a sledgehammer to destroy our bomb pop that has been our donation jar for the past year. It's a little bit crazy, a lot of fun. Nothing better than taking a sledgehammer to some really, really pretty glass. So we're keeping everything nice and warm. Cliff is on to the next round. He's got his second gather on the end of the blowpipe. Eyes again, just nice even warmth with the fluffy torch. Doesn't want anything to drop below 1,000 degrees, ideally. Little head nod to T, we're bringing this back to the heat. I've got the door to get open. We'll keep that open for a minute. And then once she's ready to come out, I'll close the door behind her so we don't have as much heat kind of dumping onto her. And then I've got to keep my head on a swivel because Cliff is going to be coming over and standing in front of this little hole in a few moments, keeping the glass hot. So I've got to know where everyone is as well. Going in for that extra dip of glass, nice 2100 degrees Fahrenheit. Our furnace has been running pretty constantly for the past almost 5 years now. It's due for an overhaul, which is one of our main tasks for the summer, is to rebuild that furnace from the ground up. It's a pretty substantial endeavor, as you might imagine, but what it does gives us the opportunity to have really nice, clear glass at a moment's notice. Over the past 5 years, the glass has slowly eaten through the liner a bit, so it's not as clean a glass as we had at the very beginning of things, but it's still a really, really nice, pristine glass. It's spruce pine glass made by the fine folks in Spruce Pine, North Carolina at Spruce Pine Batch. Thanks Harvey Littleton for getting this whole thing started, and John Littleton for keeping the tradition alive. Cliff has that hot heat. I'm going to sneak over, open a door. So I has instructed Cliff to bring this one basically straight up and down so he can stab it right on top. But our clear glass comes to us in a batch formula. It's basically a raw chemical makeup of clear glass. Comes in 50-pound bags. And glass in its molten state is really pretty caustic, so it's constantly trying to escape. Our furnace is built in a process where it's actually an invested crucible. What that means is a big gigantic ceramic bowl is held in place by about 2,100 pounds of a glorified high temperature concrete that keeps everything in place. So if the bowl were to crack, the glass isn't going to escape and puddle out into the floor. It's going to stay exactly where we want it to. However, as I said, eventually that glass starts eating through that liner and wants to escape. So, in our experience, after about 5 years, it's time to replace the whole thing and get started from square one. Pardon?
Right door in a sec. Coming out.
So now that we've got extra blobs, extra doors are needed to be open, so T let me know she needs the right door now as we're doing our flash. You can slowly see that air being pushed through the blow hose, through the blowpipe, and really expanding that bubble into that clear blob of glass. And I'm sure I've missed something about the ice cream social for tomorrow. But certainly check it out online. We've got a bunch of Facebook posts out there about it. At this point, I don't think there's any more pre-registration, so if you want to come play with us, you will have to register on site. So adding just a little bit more air, blowing that bubble all the way out. Really stretching that glass really, really far. You'll notice those white lines are staying super tight. It's a very, very stiff white glass that's actually in the core of all those colored canes coming out. It's actually, this is Marco Blanco, manufactured by Bullseye, created by Mark Pizer. It's a super duper stiff white glass and has become kind of a lifeline here recently since the unfortunate scarcity of Duro, which is also another super stiff color. But what that Duro or the Marco Blanco does is, as I said, keeps a really nice, tight, crisp line. The glass doesn't diffuse. It doesn't become watered out. So you have those really, really nice geometric convergences. That's some big words for me. So Cliff is going in for yet another gather. Aya is keeping the punty nice and warm with the Oxy Pro torch. And then she's going to isolate heat once again. Do you need any water, tea? Okay. You bet. I'm going to grab a little. Yep, both. Nope. Am I still the mic? Okay.
Unless you want to switch.
I think
If
we're.
you want to break.
It all depends on what tea needs, to be honest.
So Aya said that she's going for about 11 bubbles on this piece. We'll see. The heat's pretty spectacular today, so we'll see how far she gets. So one of the things about working larger like this is Aya's got to keep torching that moil. The moil is the part of the glass that is connected to that steel pipe right there. And if that gets too cold, we're gonna have the piece. We're gonna have the piece break. So we've got to maintain a little bit of heat in that moil. I can't get a door because I don't have a free hand. All right. So Aya's gonna keep kind of heating this piece. We've got to maintain a good temperature so it doesn't crack. And Clifton is gathering in the meantime. He's gathering up the next bit of glass. So we've got the team kind of working together, almost a dance. Clifton's shaping up that bit. You can see the glass is super glowing yellow when it comes right out of the furnace. And as we work with the glass, the heat slowly dissipates. So you'll see it go from this bright yellow to being able to see a little more translucency. Then it'll go into a darker orange. And it'll slowly work its way toward being clear with no color. So we don't want it to get to that stage. We need it to be nice and hot because we're going to continue to manipulate it. And Aya's going to want to take this big blob of glass onto her piece. So she's marking the spot with a little torch. Kevin's taken over. Our team is going to trade out just to make sure no one gets too negatively affected by the heat. And then once Clifton's got the correct heat, he's going to bring it over to Aya. She's going to place it where that hot spot was. And then chomp through with the diamond shears. Aya's torching the bit to smooth out that area that she cut. And after a flash, she's going to be blowing that little bubble up. Hey T, will you give Aya some water too? I think close. So one of the things that Aya's doing too is she's helping to balance out the heat in the piece. That bit that she just took is raging hot, and the previous area of the piece is a lot cooler. So she is trying to make sure that the whole piece is kind of similar in heat. You guys can see that bubble went from being a big blob to now being an inflated bubble. So while Aya is working on the piece, Clifton's already started the gather for the next bubble. Don't forget, you guys, if you're hanging out online, that you can put some questions in the chat for us. It's getting a little bit intense in here for me to pass on questions to Aya, but I can always do that after the demo too. So feel free to put questions down in the chat. Let us know if you're curious about anything and we'll do our best to answer. So each of these bubbles is about 3 gathers. So a gather is basically a dip in the furnace. You can see that Clifton's got a little bit of glass on the end of that steel rod there. As that glass cools, he can put it back into the furnace and get another layer of glass. And that layer of glass is referred to as a gather. So he's chilling it out a little bit. Nolan's standing at the ready at the furnace to open the furnace. And then when Clifton feels the glass is cool enough, he's going to go into the furnace to gather some more glass. Now, we keep clear glass in that furnace over there, which is really nice because you don't have to worry about melting it or melting color onto it. You only have to worry about melting color onto it once it comes out. When the glass comes out of the furnace, it doesn't quite look clear. It looks kind of orangey in color. But the color slowly fades away and it goes clear.
And she never gave us a price for the one that's in the gallery. I bothered her because she was pretty much like,
All right. So Aya's heating up the next area for the next bit. Clifton's gathered up the right amount of glass, a 3 gather bit of glass on the end there. And Aya's basically torching the spot that she's going to take that bubble. Now she needs the interior core to blow out with the hot bit of glass that she's adding on. So she's heating that spot of the interior bubble. She's then going to add a blob of glass. That's pretty nice and hot. And what that's going to do is, while that bubble is blowing out, it's going to pull the color from the center bubble up into that hot area.
Okay, team. It's time to announce the...
We're doing it right now?
Yeah, I was going to choose the winner.
Okay.
But you have to announce what's going on, I guess.
All right. So you guys, we have been having the opportunity to break our old donation jar from last year. We do this, we announce the winner, the person who's going to get a chance to break that piece of glass tomorrow. We should probably take them into the gallery and show them what it is, right?
Then Aya will pull.
Yeah. So we're going to get Aya to pull. We're going to get Aya to pull the winner here in a second. So this is the donation jar that we're going to be breaking tomorrow. The team has made another one. This is from last year. So this stays in the gallery year round. So we've made the donation jar for next year. So the lucky winner of this drawing is going to get a chance to break this piece of glass so that we can take take out all of the donations from the last year out of it. So we're going to announce the winner here in a sec when Aya has a chance. And whoever's name gets pulled, they're going to get a chance. Shake it up real good, T. Shake it up, shake it up. They're going to get the opportunity to break that donation jar tomorrow. All right, I hope you guys got your name in that jar. This is a pretty fun one. All right. Only one. All right, who is it?
No name.
Tomorrow. The heck did it go? All right. So this number
406479
is associated with the name. And we're going to be announcing the person's name tomorrow. Is that correct? All right, cool. Thanks, team. So whoever's got the other side of that ticket,
Okay, Imran has the list.
we're going to announce their name in just a second. We've got the list in the gallery. I think we've got 6 bubbles on there at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Aya's going for about 11, so we're about halfway. About halfway there. Oh, got it, got it. We're at 7. 7 bubbles. Good call, Nolan. Thank you. All right. So Aya's torching the spot. And in the meantime, Clifton's got that bit of glass ready, the 3 gathers. So he's going to give it a nice solid heat to make sure that the glass is nice and gooey. Aya's prepped the spot. You can visually see that there's an orange spot where she's torching. That's kind of giving her a little bit of a target. It's also heating up the core nice and hot so that it blows that pattern into the clear glass. All right, you guys, so I've got the final name from our gallery team. That number, that ticket number, was associated with Miss Jennifer Grafton. Jennifer, if that is your name, you are going to be breaking that pop tomorrow. So make sure you're here. You got to be here to do that. Jennifer Grafton. All right. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's bubble number 8 that they just put on there. 11. So they've got about 3 more. One of the things about working this long is that sometimes your glass can get too cold where those doors are open. So I had just noticed that there was a little bit of a crack in the moil. So the team's probably going to spend a little bit of time just kind of heating that, being a little more careful about it, so that we don't accidentally knock this thing off before we're ready for it. So Clifton's got that third gather on that bit over there. And as soon as he's done shaping that up, it seems like I might be ready. This is about maybe 1 or 2 heats away from taking that bit. The team is doing a good job trying to keep the doors closed to minimize the amount of heat that they're dealing with. Aya had noticed that little crack in her piece. And I think she had noticed that the crack was running slightly, so she's trying to heat that out before they move forward. So now that she's sure they've got that crack taken out, she's going in and spot heating, just like we were before. Making sure that she knows where that bit is going to go. So this torch that Aya is using is extra hot because it's also pumped with oxygen, which makes the flame quite a bit hotter. The nice thing about it is you can get a very direct flame exactly where you want it. So you can see that when she's turning it around, she's getting like that bright orange spot. All right. So for those of you who are just joining us, Aya's been working on this piece for a couple of hours now. She started out with a core of color that included a bunch of cane. And now we're adding bits to stretch out the color in very selective. The team's doing a great job working together as well. Clifton's over here gathering up glass as bits. And then after the slow process of reheating a hot spot on the core, Aya is able to blow those bits out. And by blowing those bits out, she's also distorting the pattern. She's changing it. So what's really cool about this whole process is Aya started with a very, very technical, rigid pattern. After starting with a very rigid pattern, she's basically distorting everything in a very, very controlled fashion. So Clifton's gathering up a little bit less glass, I think is what I heard Aya say. Did Aya say she wants less glass on these? Smaller bits. And while Clifton's working at this bench, I and the team have to keep that piece nice and toasty so it doesn't get too cold. So Aya is spot heating that area that she wants to add the bit. All right, a little bit of a change of plan. Clifton's gathering one more time to make a little bit of a bigger gather. And Aya's spot heating the air. She wants the next bit. So you guys, one of the coolest things about this whole process is watching the team work together. Everyone's kind of communicating. The team really doesn't work with Aya regularly, so they're trying to learn to work together. They're communicating. But you'll notice that our studio team particularly isn't doing as much communicating. We're really trying to make sure that we communicate well with Aya because she's kind of new to this studio and new to the team. She doesn't work with the team very often. But it's kind of cool to watch someone come in who hasn't worked with our team very much and to see them work so well together. Aya's doing one more spot heat. And then she's called out to Clifton to let him know that she's ready. 3 more? Yeah. Okay. What number are you at right now? Are you at 8 or 9? Oh. All right, so, yeah. Wow. Aya said that the last piece she made, they put 46 bubbles on it. So she's thinking about 3 more is what she's going for. Clifton's finishing up that last bit. And then Aya's basically talking to Tara to let her know what the plan is. T and Kevin have switched off at this point. And Aya's planning for the next bit where she's going to put it. So you guys don't forget, tomorrow our ice cream social is happening. If you want to come and cool off with us, shut the furnace down. If you've never come to that event before, it's quite a sight to behold because we get to ladle out the entire furnace, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to take these big old ladles, which look like, you know, your typical spoon ladle, except a lot larger. And we're going to pull out all of the clear glass from our furnace so we can shut it down for the summer. Once we shut it down, it'll take a little bit to cool it down slowly, about a week or so. And then we take it apart and we rebuild it. So the ice cream social is our way of raising funds for that whole rebuild. What you can imagine is a pretty expensive process. So this equipment stays on for almost the entire year under very high heat stress. And so we rebuild it about every 4 to 5 years or so, if we're lucky. But we shut it down every summer because it gets a little too hot to blow glass. All right. Clifton's brought that nice hot bit over to Aya.
She got bigger.
Yep. She's got a nice base that she's put it on. And then she's torching the cut mark. Two more. So I was thinking it's going to take about 2 more. Are you trying to cover the space fully? Not sure if she's going to cover the entire space with those extra bubbles she's got on there. Sorry, T. So while the team's working on keeping this thing hot, blowing out those bubbles, Aya's indicating to Clifton that she wants a nice bigger bubble on the next one. Did she say she wanted a bigger gather?
Like that.
2 more. The last bubble was a little bit bigger, as you can see, compared to the previous ones we've been doing. So Clifton is bringing a couple more like that. It's kind of crazy how white hot these are when they first start. And then once they're blown out, they go pretty clear. Aya's talking to T about where these next 2 bits are going. They've got to make sure the moil stays warm. Because as these doors are open, the backside of that punty is getting, or the backside of the blowpipe's getting a lot cooler, so that moil's chilling out a little bit more. So I think Aya is talking about this being the last bit. So the team's talking about this piece potentially being done, actually. Because we had that crack earlier in the piece. Aya would want to cold work that out. And so I don't believe that they're taking this bit Clifton's gonna unclog this pipe, just giving it a little bit of air. And then we're gonna knock that off. So at this point, Aya's just trying to equalize the temperature. The whole team's kind of working to get the temperature kind of even. So that first bubble had a little bit of a crack in it when the moil cracked. And so the team talked about it. And if she were to add some more bubbles, she wouldn't be able to cold work and edit the piece afterward. And so they're all making the call kind of together. To equalize the temperature and then put this away in the annealer.
Not bolt it down, be careful.
All right, so the team's kind of going to get ready to knock this piece off. All right, so the team's getting ready to put this thing away. You can see that Clifton's suited up. He's got a face shield on and some gloves. The best way to put these pieces away is to kind of catch them in Kevlar gloves and then put them away in the annealer. The temperature's got to be just right to do this. If it's too hot, it's gonna smush. And if it's too cold, it's gonna crack. So you gotta be good on temperature. Aya's putting a little bit of water in the constriction. And that water is gonna give it a little bit of a stress point to crack on. So from here it goes into an annealer, which is a box that stays at about 900 or so for several hours until it cools down. Nice shot! Yeah! All right, so we're gonna give the team a second to cool off. And I'll have Clifton sign us out. Don't forget, you guys, tomorrow is our ice cream social. Come hang out with us, come cool down with us. Boy, is this team probably looking forward to ice cream tomorrow. So come check us out, come sandcast with us. We're looking forward to you guys being with us tomorrow. Don't forget, we do so much at Seneca Studios, so if you haven't taken a class with us, go check out our website, and we will chat here with Clifton in just a second.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's see if I can get this mic on.
Is your mic on?
I turned it
yeah.
on.
All right,
I'm
you're
good. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Seneca Studios Open Studios Night for June 2022. July 2022, my goodness. You gotta give it up for Ayaoki. She doesn't mess around. You can't hold her back. We tried to tell her to scale back. We told her it was going to be hot, but she said, we're going to make it. She's going to make what she wants to make, and that's how art works. So I want to thank everybody on the team, Tatara Siegel on the pipe, Kevin McGeehee, Patty Childers behind the scenes. Thank you so much for all that you do to help everybody to experience this. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We do great things here at Seneca Studios. And like we've been saying all night, tomorrow is our ice cream social. We have several fundraisers throughout the year, and tomorrow is real important. So I want to thank those who supported us so far. I want to thank the Arts Council, our Arts Fort Worth. I want to thank the Texas Commission on the Arts, National Endowment for the Arts, the J.E.S. Edwards Foundation, the R4 Foundation, and everybody out there who's donated to Seneca Studios. We truly appreciate it. Couldn't do what we do without you, but we need your help. We got to keep going here. We got to keep going. We got to keep growing. We got to plan for the future. We have a lot planned. We have a big vision here at Seneca Studios. So help us to bring glass art to Fort Worth. Help us to elevate glass making in this part of the country and in our community.
And you don't have to come by tomorrow to help us out. You can go online.
You can go online, go to our website, go to
or
our Facebook.
sponsor us. Be one of our sponsors.
Yeah, we are looking for sponsors for future events. We're looking for anybody who wants to be a part of us. We have a great team, and we'd love to include you. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Aya.
Thanks, Clifton.
Thank you, Aya.
Thanks, Aya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ayoki.